got strips for pliers, and pliers for a wrench for a hammer, hammers everything else. It just don't seem to make much difference. I sure do like him, but he's
My last day in China, they gave me a guide and they took me to see the sites around Yantai, which was a winery and Yantai Mountain. And when I went to Yantai Mountain, there was this guy selling these little trinkets, like little wire trinkets. Like he was making sculptures out of like colored wire. And so he had this big giraffe thing, and it was pretty cool, but he was asking me if I wanted to buy a souvenir, and so he made a little Chinese symbol that was supposedly my name,
Yeah.
Lloyd, but I don't know. But I bought it from him. It was like $2 or something, so I bought it. And then he was like, hey, can I can show you something else. And I was like, oh boy, he's gonna try to sell me this giraffe, because the little trinket was like $2, but the giraffe's probably like 500 or something.
Yeah.
But it turns out his name was Mr. Jiang, and he's a TikTok, or not a TikTok. In China, TikTok's called Douyin, and he was a Douyin star. And what he does is he runs his little tourist booth, and then whenever American tourist comes up, he spoke really, really good English, like game show host English, right?
Okay.
And so when he gets tourists, he does like a little comedy video. And so he asked me if I wanted to be in one of his comedy videos, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love that. So basically we did this little skit where I walked up and asked him if he could help me find a Chinese wife. And he told me that the only way to get a Chinese wife was to lose weight. And he was actually a really fat guy. And so
Yeah.
I was like, so now I understand why you're single.
Well, awesome. All right,
Hey,
so
gentlemen.
hey, Ricardo, how's it going, brother?
Pretty good. How are y'all doing?
Good. Where are you at right now? Remind me, I can't remember.
I'm out on location, West Texas.
Nice.
No, I'm kidding. I'm in Granbury.
You bastard.
Honesty, not Ricardo's strong suit.
Come on, man. I thought this was an oil and gas podcast. I wanted to make it more legit.
Yeah.
Calling in from the frac band, reporting live.
Well, Ricardo, tell us a little bit about, for our listeners, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to lately. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Ricardo and I go way back, and then Lloyd knows Ricardo as well. And but give us a little bit about your latest and greatest. You've been working on some stuff that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, just I mean, I guess a lot of it's going on just with the technology changes and everything. My background's in hydraulic fracturing, so just from working out and being out there consulting, etc. We kind of picked up on some things that maybe could be optimized or made more efficient through technology, and been working through that on a platform. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Make better wells.
All
Well,
right,
a lot of this comes from your field experience, right? So I mean, you spent a good deal amount in the field leading up to this. Like, how long were you out there?
Yeah, so it's an interesting journey, because I was started out as field engineer, and then field engineer South Texas, then North Dakota. Then I went to the office as a reservoir engineer in Houston for a little bit, and then went international, pretty much all over the place, looking at data really for everything from frac packs and gravel packs, coal bed methane, SAGD, unconventionals offshore. So it was and then after that I came back stateside and was out in West Texas consulting, primarily in operations, for 3 years. Yeah. 3 years. And then we kicked off Maven. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting. We've had guys from the field. We've had sales guys, we've had supervisors, we've had pump operators, service supervisors on the show. But you know, software is part of the industry also, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a big part of the industry. I mean, when we started with this idea, it wasn't something that, I mean, it was very unconventional, if you will, how we decided to start doing this, you know, and probably the proper approach would have been to do an extensive market analysis and seeing what competitors are out there and what are they doing and, you know, all that stuff. But we kind of took a different approach, was like, we're just going to do this thing that we want to do. And we believe that it's useful and hopefully it will be useful, kind of thing. And so inevitably, you know, you hang around people in the industry and you start hearing about, oh, this company's out there and this company's out there. And what I realized is that was my long-winded way of saying, it seems like during that COVID time, things slowed down enough that everybody started, you know, investing some time or looking at technology and software in particular. And you know, there's quite a few companies that are out there that are doing great things as well. So, you know, it's good to have, I think, that competition, and, you know, kind of keeps you on your toes and innovating. And I think just like everything else in this industry, the good ones will stay and the bad ones will fade out.
Yeah.
So we're in it. Yeah.
I like your approach. I mean, it's kind of like bringing the oil field to the tech world in a real way. I see a lot of companies out there that seem like great companies, but they're digitizing for, you know, digitization's sake, which is fine. Everything's going digital, but finding a real solution that's directly proportional to the field seems like a challenge, and that seems to be what at least what I've heard about it. So cool, man. So you were telling me, so remind me, okay, so a few months back you had sent me some kick-ass pics with, you were on site, you were testing the software and just fire broke out. What happened with that? That was insane. It has nothing to do with your software, but I mean, it sounds like some things went south.
Maybe. No.
We don't know yet.
yeah. We don't talk about that. No. Yeah, we were testing, you know, the real time and make sure, you know, we could connect and everything was good and the code was good and it wasn't buggy and all this stuff. We had just implemented a new deal on it. And so, you know, I went out there myself, and you're just dealing with just normal stuff, right? We had, you know, whenever you go out there, that's a third party guy that's not mission critical, if you will, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, right? You're low priority. So, and everybody was super helpful in general, except for the E-Tech that just didn't want to cooperate, right? So excuse after excuse. And so, I mean, I was patient. I'm there, they're helping me out, so I'll just go with the flow. And anybody that's been out in the field, you deal with all kinds of people, and you just have to kind of know how to deal with them. Otherwise, I guess you can go behind the sand silos and work it out there and then come back. But in this case, we just kind of talked it out. And then so finally, after about, I don't know, 5-6 hours of me being out there, I get the opportunity to get hooked up to all the equipment. And so we can start reading data and doing the testing that we needed to do. So I'm set up. We just started troubleshooting, and they call fire on the radio, right? Now, I mean, I spent probably combined 5 or 6 years on a location, and, you know, you've seen some stuff, and I know that's not that much. I know there's guys with, you know, decades of experience, and I'm sure they've seen a ton, but it's enough to see a lot of things. And you hear fire, and a lot of times, you know, it's a spark or it's a little bit of smoke or, you know, whatever. I've never had it to where it was a fire, you know. And so I'm like bummed out, and I look at the field engineer and I'm like, hey man, like, do we have to muster up or what's the deal? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, okay. So I get up, you know, kind of like bummer, and leave all my stuff in the van and step out of the frac van. And I look to my right, and 2 of the pumps are on like fire, dude. like on fire, you know, like
Oh yeah.
15 feet up in the air, like swirling fire. And the tires are blowing out, you know, so it's like every few seconds you just, ooh, just one pump after another just caught on fire and on fire, the next one, and the next one, the next one. And I mean, of course, everybody at this point, we're like, you know, a mile away from this thing, mustered up and all that stuff. But it was pretty, yeah, that was pretty crazy. I'd never seen, I mean, I've seen blowouts, you know, lines, chicks and give out, whatever, but not like a fire like that. And, you know, you're in the middle of nowhere. So there's no fire trucks come out, but whatever the water they have in them, that's it. You know,
So
they can't hook
how many
up to
trucks
anything.
burnt?
11.
Oh my gosh. Did the
Yeah.
frac van catch on fire?
No, it didn't. So it didn't actually. So they would have been able to, I guess my laptop would have been okay, but everything else that I left in there was gone afterwards. So
It's a
whatever
crazy
happened.
chain reaction how those fires just spread from, you know,
Oh
truck to
yeah.
truck, pump to pump.
Yeah. Yeah. It
I
was,
only
Did they
I
find a
only
source
ever
to
go
that? Was
ahead.
it hydraulic fluid or oil or?
it was a hydraulic leak. It hit a hot turbo, and so it just kind of lit up.
That's how everyone starts, man.
Yeah.
I was on a location in, oh, I don't remember the name of the town. It's just across the Texas border up near Elk City, Oklahoma. Shamrock is the name of the town. And we had a pinhole leak on one of the blender hydraulic lines, and it was spraying on a turbo, and it caught the blender on fire. Luckily we got it extinguished before it spread, but definitely
Yeah.
burned up the blender.
Oof. Yeah.
That was
I don't
back
know.
when you still had semis underneath the pumps, and so they actually
Yeah.
pulled the pumps next to the blender out in a way, and so the blender was kind of isolated.
Okay. Yeah. That way it wouldn't daisy chain down
Yeah.
onto everything.
Incredible.
Yeah, that stuff's crazy, man. I mean, I, I mean, you might know, Lloyd, how that whole insurance and all that stuff works for that, but that's got to be what, a 10, $11 million? More than that, probably.
Woo, more
15
than
million.
that. Yeah, if they caught
Yeah.
11 pumps on fire, I mean that's probably in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they wouldn't have been completely destroyed, I would think, but sometimes, man, whenever you get a fire, you might as well scrap it because you have to replace so much stuff. It's like
These
it's probably
were
less expensive to buy one.
pretty much gone, man. I mean, the tractors were all gone, of course. Like, everything
Wow.
melted,
That's crazy.
completely melted. Yeah.
That's
And yeah, I
crazy.
mean, they were. I don't think you can refurbish. I know you. There's no way you can refurbish. Nobody would. Those pumps. I mean, everything just melted. It burnt through the night. It just, yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds like a total destruction. So if they lost the semis also, 11 pumps and a semi, I mean, you're probably talking 15 to 20 million.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Well, luckily Lloyd is in the horsepower business, so maybe you can make a
Yeah.
connect for
Yeah,
it.
tell them that I can sell them some pumps.
Put you on in touch, man. What do you say? What's the bulk discount?
If they get if they get the insurance money in. So Ricardo, tell me a little bit about I know you've been in the field a little bit. We always typically ask some similar questions. Tell me about the pranks you've seen in your few years out there. Have you seen any?
Oh
You've
man.
heard the show. I know you're a friend of the show.
I've
The ones that you can share without completely incriminating yourself.
I think the best one I have is when I was in college, my drilling professor was also the vice president of Gas Star, which I don't know if that company's still around or not, but he was the vice president of Gas Star, and he was really good friends with the president of Trinidad Drilling, I believe. Somebody high up at Trinidad. And so he took us on a field trip to a rig close to College Station. And, you know, we saw the rig and all this stuff, walked around. And so after that, I talked to him and I said, hey, is there any chance you can get me some work there over the holidays? And he said, yeah, let me see what I can do. You know, probably not, but let me check. And so he said, you know, once that was the first time I worked was a Christmas break. And he said, hey, yeah, as soon as school's out, you know, show up to Shreveport at 6 a.m. somewhere, or yeah, so I think it'll have to be there at 6, or maybe it was at 8. Basically, I'm in College Station. He said, be at Shreveport tomorrow at 8 a.m. Just got out of school. you know, so I went, stopped at my grandparents' house in Houston for a little bit. And then I started driving to Shreveport like at 10 o'clock at night. That's when I discovered that 5-hour energies only give you like 2.5 hours of energy. And just parked somewhere, slept a couple hours. I used to dip, so I was dipping at the time. It was dip and Red Bulls and 5-hour energies to get that through that drive. That's before I had worked a lot of night shifts, so I wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
And so I get there, and same thing, running on like adrenaline and nicotine. And I do my interview, and the guy's like, okay, yeah, you're good. So go to Tyler. I had to go to Tyler, Texas from Shreveport to do my physical, like right after the interview, to start working on this rig. He said, go do your physical and then show up on the rig the following day at 6 a.m. to start work. I'm like, shit. So I drive to Tyler, do my physical. And it was funny because I was doing that, you know, the guy, medical examiner or whatever he is, he's like, you have any tattoos? And I'm like, no. And he looked at me real weird. Like, well, that's a first. I was like, okay. And so anyway, I didn't pass my physical, actually. You know, my blood pressure was too high. And I told the guy, like, look, man, I don't know what I was, 20 years old, 21 maybe. I said, I'm 21 years old. I've been running on Red Bulls and dip for like, 36 hours. I promise you I'm good. He's like, okay. Because it was like barely, not passing. I said, I haven't slept. So he's like, okay. So they let, I passed and I went out there. Long story short, I was roughnecking for him. Trinidad 117 was a rig. And we had an intern, like an actual like engineer guy. I don't know if he was for the operator. I guess he must have been for gas star. I don't know, but there was an intern out there. No, maybe that was the following summer that we had the intern out there. Yeah. And so they have the oil sample cups, and they got this guy and said, hey, they're doing a random drug test. So take one of these cups with the label and go piss in it and give it to the company man. And so he takes this cup. He said, does somebody have to watch me? We're like, no, you're in college, man. They trust you. Like, don't worry. Just go and do it and give it to him right now. So he goes down the rig and fills this cup with his piss and labels it and goes in. We're watching him from the rig floor right as he's going into the bathroom or the porta potties, and then taking it to the company man's shack. And he goes in, and we're just waiting. And then the company man busts out, and because we heard later what happened. He gave him the cup. He's like, here you go, sir. And he grabbed it and he said, what's this? And he goes, it's my piss, sir. And he fucking threw it on the floor and walks out, and he said, quit fucking with the goddamn intern. And we're just all walking on the rig floor. That's my favorite one.
Oh, that's really funny.
That's a good one.
They had a guy, a green hat, or I guess you're not supposed to call them green hats anymore. What, short service employee?
What?
Is that
Wait,
wait.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that bullshit for a second.
Yeah, you can't call them green hats anymore. It's I don't know, derogatory or whatever it is. Worm went away a while back, but green hats it's also a bad term now.
So now every joke about the field's gonna start with, so I'm working with this fucking short-term service employee.
yeah, I got this SSE.
With this SSE.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, anyway, sorry. That's
fuck.
So the SSE, they had him strapping porta potties with a stick. Like, hey, we need you to strap the porta potties every hour on the hour, write down the inches and take them to the company man so he knows when he needs to call in for fresh ones.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
And so after like the third hour, it ended up, a guy was smarter than everybody thought, but you know, after maybe not, I don't know. After the third hour, the company man's like, "Hey, you know, they're just fucking with you, right?" And he said, "Yeah, I know, but they're over there working on pumps, and I'm just strapping porta potty."
Yeah.
It was like, "Oh, there you go."
Yeah, I
Um,
had a similar situation. I was working for Halliburton, and the iron manager, the crane operator, sent me to look for keys to the V door. Well, I
yeah,
knew what that was because that's like one of the oldest ones in the book,
right,
and so
right,
I just
right.
went and hung out in the QA/QC trailer in the air conditioner. And the QA/QC guy is like, "What the hell are you doing in here?" And I was like, "I'm looking for the keys to the V door." And he's like, "Well, I don't have them." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, but uh, it's hot outside."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, the keys to the V door is like an old one, man.
Yeah, that one's an old one.
There's another one like that that's pretty good. Oh, the pipe stretcher.
Yeah, universal pipe stretcher.
Yeah. Oh, Universal. I hadn't heard that. That's
Yeah, you had
makes it more
universal pipe
legit.
stretcher. It sounds more official.
Yeah. They got me with one time when I was on the rig, but I think it's kind of not. It wasn't that good of a one. I think maybe it was. Now that I think about it, at the time I was like, "Ah, this isn't that good." Basically, casing came uh late per usual. So they delivered casing and they said, "Hey, make sure all those thread protectors are on there tight." And so I'm over there with a wrench, you know, making sure all the thread protectors are tight on the casing, which I guess doesn't really matter, but you know, it was kind of a dumb one. Basically, they had me doing a job that didn't need to be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I
So
don't know. I mean, that's not very good. That's not very creative.
I know that's what I thought too. It was like because they're like, "Oh, yo, he's doing that." You know, the good ones are like microseismic, where somebody's hitting a hammer on the
Yeah, on
ground.
the ground whenever you're
Yeah.
calibrating
Yeah,
the microseismic.
yeah.
We also used to do one where we would take the SSEs and make them
I think
hit.
in this podcast we need to not use SSC.
Yeah, I don't. That's the first I've ever heard of that, man. I'm gonna get in trouble next time I go out and call somebody a green hat.
Mhm.
But yeah, so you would after working all day, you would tell them that you're gonna see if they'd picked up any hammer skills and put a Coke can down on the ground and tell them to smash it with a hammer, but you put a blindfold on them and you put their hard hat in place of the Coke can so that
Ooh,
you
yeah.
smack their hard hat with the sledgehammer. And it's really pretty dumb, but everybody would just roll
Here,
around and cackle about it, thinking it was the funniest
right.
thing ever.
So that's the thing, right? Like, and this is where I think the people that have worked in the field will understand this. Like when a lot of the times, I mean, some of the stories are just really good. Just, you know, just funny, just funny regardless. But a lot of the times when you're out there for 3, 4, you know, 5, 6 weeks, doing the same thing every day, like Groundhog Day, you know, wake up at 4, get up, get in your truck, grab some breakfast or get diesel, drive out to location, park, walk to the safety meeting, hear the safety meeting, which is the same thing you hear every single day. Get
Yeah.
out of safety meeting, go in the frac van or go in the, you know, whatever your job is out there. And then sit down and start doing what you're supposed to be doing. And then, you know, then you're going to eat. And then the day's over, relief comes, hand over, go back, get in your truck, drive back to location, get some food, go to bed, try to fall asleep, wake up. And it's the same thing over and over. You get into your brain goes into like a certain state, you know, of operating where things that may seem dumb if you're well rested and all your senses are working properly are very funny and entertaining when you're out there, you know,
Yeah.
because it changes that routine. It's a change in the routine and it's something different. And, you know, I think most of the time it's in good fun, you know, no ill intentions. And it's good. You know, it's simple fun, but it's funny when you're out there. And sometimes when you're telling the story again, it's not as funny because people are like, well, that's dumb, but
Yeah,
no,
right.
it's not that dumb after you've just done the same thing for like 3 weeks and this is something different, like it becomes funny at that point. Or
I
fun.
always-
Yeah, I think
I
there's a lot
always
of
say
truth to
that-
that.
I always say that you put a group of especially men in an isolated environment for a period of time, and things just get weird. It just
Yeah.
it just
Especially a high stress environment. And I don't, not necessarily that the job is stressful, but there's a lot of environmental stressors, right? Like probably low on sleep, tired, probably tired. You're eating whatever, long hours, etc. So that combination, yeah, for sure. I agree 100%. It's gonna,
I remember one time, I forget what we bet about, but I was running bets with the crew and, one of the service supervisors, I bet with him because he was telling me how fast they were going to be able to change over to the other wellhead. And I was like, man, you gotta be kidding me. I've been out here for, a week and it takes you guys at least an hour and a half to swap wellheads. And he's like, no, we got it down. We're going to do it in like 35 minutes. And so I started a timer and they didn't even come close to 35 minutes, of course. And so I went and bought a whole bag of oranges, like one of those bags you get at the grocery store. And so he was my orange peeler. That's what he had to do after he lost the bet, was peel oranges for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So he's just sitting there supervising the job and peeling oranges, and I was making him peel oranges for everybody that came in the frac van.
Yeah, hey, you want an orange? Hey, peel him an orange. He wants one. Yeah.
That was a good time. And again, really
Yeah.
dumb, but it was freaking hysterical on location to have this guy just sitting there humbly peeling oranges.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's good stuff, man. And hopefully, most everybody that listens to this can relate to that stuff because that's what makes it great. It's goofy, but it's really good when you're out there. It's good fun.
Yeah, I mean, and the guys that are out there, everybody's out there just trying to earn a living, so trying to have a little bit of fun. Everybody's away from their family. Everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah, exactly. We had when I was up in North Dakota, those guys were a lot of fun. I kind of, when I tell the story, I call it was kind of like the Lost Boys because the whole time I was in North Dakota, I think I met 2 people that were from North Dakota and
Right.
everybody else was from somewhere else. Most of them were young, between 21, 22 and like 36, most of them. But when it was time to work, everybody's working, working hard. And when it was time to have fun, we all had a good time. And in the frac van, actually, Baker implemented a new rule that it was harassment if you farted in the frac van. Because they were a couple of very rank ones. Like we had to evacuate, but you can't really evacuate in the middle of a frac, so you're just like simmering in it, And so they had this new HR thing where it was considered harassment to fart in the frac. Then, yeah, I mean, can you imagine pressure's climbing and 2 people rip and is the taste of the West Mex. Like, God, that's their Mexican food up there.
Oh man.
But one that I thought was really good, and I hadn't seen it anywhere else, is they would take a Sharpie, like if the treater or anybody, pump operator, anybody that stepped out of the van for any reason and left their headset on there, they would take a Sharpie and just like somebody's on the lookout. And the whole time he was gone, they're just running circles on the earpiece, on the ear cushion of the black ear cushion of the headset. So it's just, caked in ink. And as soon as he gets in and the first thing you do, you sit on that chair, you put your headset back on to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of like quiet giggling. And when he takes it off, he's got this big sharp around his ear, man.
That's pretty funny.
That's a good one, yeah.
That's really funny.
So that's kind of an odd one. I think that I think they need to bring that. That one should be a standard.
Yeah, that's a good one. How do you get it off? Is it just wash off, or you have marks on
I
your
mean,
ears for a couple
Sharpie, man,
days?
it's on. Yeah, it's gonna be on there for a little bit. Man. I guess sweating a lot helps, and hopefully you're taking a shower every day. But yeah, I mean, think about just Sharpie on your side of your face, man. And it's just in your head, your cheek, your jaw. I mean, because that thing's huge that you're set. But yeah, that was a good one. The Sharpie here.
Greasing the door handles was always a popular one too for people's vehicles.
Oh, I've
They
never
would
seen it.
pack
I
the,
heard
oh
about it,
yeah, they would put grease up underneath with the
Oh,
grease gun, just grease up
yeah.
underneath your door handle. So when you go to leave, you just jam your fingers right into grease.
Oh, yeah.
That one was always pretty popular and at Halliburton. And then the safety got involved and you couldn't, that was a safety hazard because you might get grease on your steering wheel and not be able to turn or something. I don't know. I don't know who got in and drove with grease on their hand, but it was annoying as shit though. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like that one. That one was annoying because it was hard to get out, hard to get off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be on the handle for until you clean it.
Yeah.
Not
So you
like
go
you
to the
can
car
just wipe it
wash.
on your pants and get Oh. Have you ever messed with pipe dope?
Yeah.
That stuff is crazy, man. That stuff is crazy.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't get rid of it.
you get a little bit, just a little bit on your hand, anywhere, and that's it. It's gonna be everywhere, man. It's gonna be in your ears. It's gonna be in your hair, in between your toes somehow. Like
On your
that stuff
eyebrows.
yeah, that stuff is crazy. Pipe
Yep.
dope, man.
Pipe dope's a mess.
There was a guy. I don't know the guy personally, but I heard the story. This guy worked in Louisiana, and they were, I don't know what exactly, but he was a doping pipe was his job, and he's doping pipe. I don't know. I think he'd been doing it for like 15 years, and they had hired this other guy, Peter, and Peter gets promoted like a couple years after.
To the
And
pipe
that guy,
doper?
yeah, no, he got promoted out of doping pipe.
Oh.
And this guy was just complaining. He's like, man, that's some bullshit. I've been doping pipe for 15 years. I got pipe dope in my ears, got pipe dope in my hair. My wife don't let me in my house when I get home. And Peter gets promoted. That's some bullshit. This guy was pissed off about it, but I could totally relate with this pipe dope all over shit.
I mean, I couldn't do it for 15 years. Like that's a job
Yeah,
I
no
could not
kidding.
do for 15 years.
Yeah, I was about to ask the question. I was like, why have you been pipe doping for 15
I
years?
don't know, man. I guess you get promoted to your highest degree of incompetence, but
It's the pipe dope Peter principle.
I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know the guy.
I mean, you should probably find another profession if your highest qualification is pipe doper.
Hey, man, that's the best money you could make. You never know.
It's a very short CV or resume.
Yeah. Been doping pipe for 15
I
years.
go for 15 years, man.
Hey, if he was, I mean, but it used to be you talk to guys and they're like, you're like, hey, you looking for anybody? And they're like, yep, we just need a clean drug check and a valid driver's license, and you're on.
Yeah, you can get a 5-gallon bucket of dope and then you get all kinds of interesting applicants.
Yeah. I mean, I think it still kind of is that way in a lot of places, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But
no, I mean, when you say you're talking about the business and contributing something to the world, it's great that we can still have good jobs for of varying degrees of education, varying degrees of where you come from. It's people need work everywhere, and so it's all.
I think something that I think is very cool about our industry is that it still is a place where if you're willing to work hard, you can have a great career, regardless of, like you said, education, background, or anything really, age. It doesn't matter. If you're willing to go out there and work hard in a tough environment, I mean, you can do anything, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep. You can still make it. There's
there's-
CEOs of companies out there that started out as a
exactly,
rig hand.
exactly right. Yep.
Uh,
So I think that's cool and unique to
I
our
agree with
industry.
you.
And I'm sure we're not the only one, but I think that's starting to disappear quite a bit.
I'll
And
tell
it's a
you what's
shame.
crazy is the last downturn during COVID, the number of guys that I know that are now insurance salesmen.
Really?
Apparently that's what you can move into if you leave the oil field, is selling insurance.
Huh. I heard,
Yeah.
I know a lot of real estate stuff, but I hadn't
Yeah,
heard
real
of it.
estate also. Yeah, real estate
Yeah.
too. I'd say it's 50-50, real estate or or insurance.
Insurance, huh?
Yeah.
What's the, I had not heard about the insurance deal. Why
I don't,
insurance?
I
Is it
don't
good
know.
money or what?
I don't think so.
Depends on what you're writing for. Like, I mean, we all know companies that are selling, insurance to service companies and stuff. And if you get in that, you could, with some oil field experience, it's not too bad. But I see them from time to time where they're trying to write policies on bigger operations and stuff. But I don't know why you'd go from like working in the field to selling insurance. I
Because
mean,
because your job goes away whenever there's a downturn.
it
So
could
it's
be.
like,
Yeah, but I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
there's options.
Yeah,
yeah.
my sister's husband works he's a flowback guy, and he had lost his job, and he was in Lawton, Oklahoma, selling cars for a while. I was like, shit, how many cars are you selling in Lawton a year? But he did it for a year. Same thing. He had to work somewhere, and that's what was available.
Yeah, I do know one guy that went to selling cars. But yeah, I'd say the majority, most of the guys, like Ricardo said, it's either real estate or I know at least 3 or 4 guys that are doing insurance now.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild stuff. Well, Ricardo, we're approaching I got a pretty hard stop at 4, but any advice
Yeah, me too.
for young bucks coming on the scene? That's the way we typically will wrap up. Any advice other than don't do it?
Yeah. I have a meeting at 4 too, so this works out. Advice, I would say, especially for young bucks, like the younger generations, I would say it's not that hard, just be better than the average bear and show up to work on time, and don't try to leave early, and while you're working, actually work. I just keep hearing horror stories of these guys, and they're on their phone all day, like the younger guys, and it's all like sensibilities and just get out of your head about all that stuff and just go in knowing that it's a job and they're paying you to work, and just if you just do that, it almost seems like these days, if you just show up and do what you're supposed to do during the time that you're supposed to do it, you'll be good. And if you can do that and then a little bit more, like maybe show up a little early and leave a little bit late and be dependable, man, you're ahead of a bunch of people right there, you know.
Yeah, for
So
sure. And if you're willing to learn about the equipment and the business and the job and what's going on down the hole, if you pick up any of that knowledge while you're doing it, then the sky's the
that's even
limit.
better. That's even better. Yeah. But I mean, inevitably, if you do it long enough, you're going to learn it, right? And that's where you get, guys that like company men, right? They don't even have to be that smart, but you do something for 35 years, you're going to learn it.
Yeah.
So, if you show up, you're dependable and you pay attention. And then on top of that, you're willing to learn and ask questions. That's great. I mean, I think keep a humble attitude. Nobody's born knowing anything, and neither are you. So just ask questions. It's okay to not know. And yeah, that's my advice. If you're going to do it, but if you cannot do it, then just don't do it. No, I'm kidding. But I think
Spoken like a
it's
true software guy.
yeah, yeah. I think I think the industry is great. I like it. You have to go in knowing what you're getting into. There's ups and downs. There's going to be downturns. Don't spend all your money. Save. Prepare for the downturns. Be smart about it. And you can have a great career, and it's rewarding, and it's a really good bunch of people, and it's a small world. You'll run into the same people over and over again, and a lot of good people, good networking, a lot of really smart people as well. So I think, I mean, I wouldn't discourage anybody from joining our industry, really, but you have to go in knowing what you're getting into, right? This is an up and down kind of thing. So if it's not for you, if you don't like the uncertainty that comes at times, and you don't like working hard, then maybe look somewhere else. But if those things appeal to you, then this is a great place.
Awesome. I agree.
Hey! He got a real long reach in the derrick when he leads. He been all around the world on the big old rigs with the welders and the trucks on the black gold rush and the diesel burning cat motors growling in the mud. You better hire him on. He's the roughest neck around. He got the power in his hand to pull the dragons from the ground. Yeah.